Looking to break free from the corporate nature of their respective jobs, Arnt, Jensen, and Dino Patti came together to co-found Playdead Studios. In a time when AAA games were always looking for a way to make their games bigger and better, Jensen and Patti carved their own path with the game Limbo. It's a moody puzzle platformer that plots the journey of a young, nameless boy into a dark, unforgiving world where bear traps, rolling boulders, and giant spiders are the norm. Set on the edge of hell in a barren wasteland, the atmospheric horror game works to convey themes of loss and isolation in place of a clearly defined narrative. Its aesthetic and development are, in many ways, the perfect success story for an indie game. Limbo was first visualized in a trailer released the fall of 2006. In the trailer, it shows the main character of the game moving around in a bleak black and white world known as Limbo. The trailer was made by one of the creators, Arnt Jensen, who at the time was becoming dissatisfied with his job at IO Interactive. Through the trailer, he ended up meeting future co-founder Dino Patti. Together, the two went on to create Playdead Studios. They made it their mission to make sure that their company Playdead Studios would not have to submit to any big publishers.
I should mention first of all that we're not working for Microsoft. We're an independent developer and publisher with funding from external sources. And we have creative control over the product that we're doing, so we're in no way working for Microsoft. So we're collaborating, and it's a rather fruitful collaboration in the sense that we bring the game and the creative vision, and they bring an amazing distribution platform. It's hard to imagine how a game of this scope could be successful without that kind of distribution platform.
The sense of artistic integrity is almost a hallmark of indie-ness itself. Playdead Studios also kept a fairly small number of employees, at most having 16 people working on the project. Compare this to, say, a studio like EA, who would have hundreds upon hundreds of people working on any given project at a time. Once the game was complete, Playdead sought distribution through several consoles in order to get the game out to as many consumers as possible. One key aspect that makes Limbo inherently indie is its unconventional aesthetics. When the creators behind Playdead Studios created Limbo, they specifically set out to make this game stand out amongst its AAA contemporaries. And they did this simply by creating an eerie atmosphere and an aesthetic that was heavily influenced by noir's expressionistic imagery. To see how this stands out, let's take a look at some of the more popular games at the time. One of the most popular games that was released in 2010 was Call of Duty Black Ops from the, well, you guessed it, Call of Duty series. For 2010, the game's graphics were absolutely top of the line. The gameplay is extremely cinematic, fast-paced, and action-packed, where your survival is based on your skill and quick reflexes. On top of all that, it had a variety of multiplayer options. You could hop online to climb the ranks and win rewards, or you and another friend could just plop down on the couch and kill Nazi zombies together, as friends do. Compare this to Limbo. For starters, there's no multiplayer option in this game, not even to kill zombies. The gameplay is focused entirely on a single-player experience, and its pace is significantly slower compared to a game like Black Ops. To some degree, this is expected. This is a puzzle game after all. But the slow pacing of the game forces a player to be methodical in their decisions. As much as you might want to, you can't simply shoot your way through the giant spider. Believe me, absolutely would have if I could. Instead, it's up to you to figure out the correct procedural approach to move forward. I also want to take a look at how both games treat sound. This is what a typical online session of Black Ops might sound like. Now, in Black Ops, there's so much sound that it's almost deafening. The shooting, the reloading, the online insult, All of it creates a soundscape that's forever and always cranked up to 11. Compare that to Limbo. The only sound that you really hear is your own footsteps. Occasionally, we hear ambient noises of the background world, suggesting that the rest of the world is just as empty as the parts we're exploring. This silence cuts right to the bones and sucks you in. Despite its bleak black and white presentation, there's a degree of realism to the game that's almost haunting. All of these things combined create a sense of unease in the player, making it different from just about any other horror game at the time, which likely would have just hit you with a jump scare. In Limbo, there are no waypoints, no objectives, and no shooting things. Seriously, would have loved to shoot the spider. Instead, you're just a boy running through the woods with no idea who you are or why you're there. At first glance, the game seems very formulaic. You move from left to right, dodging obstacles and solving puzzles all the way until you reach the end. In this way, it really is just your typical puzzle platformer. However, the story is inexplicably laid before us, which means that the greatest puzzle is the narrative itself. As a result, each player is likely to derive their own meaning from the game. A huge contributor to this is the game's central location of being stuck in limbo. In Christian tradition, limbo is the edge of hell. This leaves you wondering, what did the boy do to end up here? And is he trying to escape, or is he motivated by something else? It's not entirely clear, and it's not meant to be. This sense of uncertainty and unease is a constant throughout the game, but it keeps you engaged as you try to address this lingering question of what's going on. On top of the ambiguous setting of Limbo, we have an ambiguous protagonist. Compared to its AAA contemporaries, we don't inhabit a well-defined character like Ezio of Assassin's Creed or Kratos of God of War. We never come to know our character, not really. We're told in the beginning that it's a boy, but beyond that, we're not really provided anything. Is he someone special? Is he dead? We don't know. That added distance between us and the character on screen changes how we perceive the game in two major ways. First is the way we learn about the character. There's no text, no speech, no tutorial to give us any kind of background. Who we are and what we're doing is entirely a mystery. The lack of information in Limbo keeps us feeling lost and alert. Our second point has to do with the game's trial by death method of solving puzzles. In AAA games, the hero is supposed to overcome all odds and triumph. If they do die, it's usually the fault of, well, us. But we're rarely ever punished for dying. We simply load from the previous save point and try again. In comparison, Limbo's trial by death method serves as an endless punishment for players, as the boy dies graphic and violent deaths. Each death brings the player two things: information about the world and something new to fear. In the nightmarish hellscape of Limbo, it only feels appropriate that we are put through this seemingly unending cycle of pain.
It's not violent for the sake of violence. It's because this is a harsh world, and this is somewhat of a horrifying world and a horror story that we're telling.
Jensen and Patti toy with their players in this way, and it's a very effective and emotional experience. This emotional experimentation is really a hallmark of its indiness, as the two creators are unafraid to create a sense of dread in the players, which isn't something we typically see in AAA games. Ever since its creation in 2010, Limbo has held a special place in the hearts of the gaming community. The game comes across fairly simple. You're just a boy running through the woods with no idea who you are or where you are. In a time when first-person shooters dominated the scene, the developers of Limbo dared to do something different, and the result was an in-depth, methodical puzzle game with an extremely unique art style. And it is for that reason that Limbo is hailed as one of the best indie games of the decade.